They arrive from the other side of the world, armed with capital, ambition, and a vision that would reshape the Miami skyline forever. While most Americans were still unfamiliar with Hong Kong beyond kung fu films and exotic imports, a handful of visionary families from Greater China saw something in Miami that others missed. A sun-drenched gateway to the Americas, a blank canvas waiting for transformation, a city where fortunes could be made by those bold enough to dream on an unprecedented scale. These are the Chinese families and investors who bet billions on Miami. From the towering glass monuments of Brickell to the exclusive shores of Fisher Island, their fingerprints are everywhere. Yet their names remain largely unknown to the very people who walk through their shopping centers, live in their condominiums, and work in their office towers. But who are these mysterious dynasties from the East? What drove them to pour their fortunes into a city thousands of miles from their ancestral homes? And just how much of Miami do they actually own? In this documentary, we're counting down the wealthiest Chinese-connected families and investors who have left their mark on the Magic City. We'll explore the colossal empires they built back home, trace their journey across the Pacific, and reveal the staggering scope of their Miami investments. From a family whose Hong Kong conglomerate transformed a barren man-made island into one of America's most prestigious addresses, to anonymous billionaires who purchase entire floors of luxury condos sight unseen, to the heirs of a Chinese peasant farmer who now develop alongside America's most elite real estate dynasties, these are stories of ambition, legacy, and the globalization of wealth. Some of these families have been shaping Miami for nearly half a century. Others are just arriving, bringing fresh billions and even bigger dreams. Together, they represent a fundamental shift in who owns America's cities and how international capital flows are reshaping the urban landscape. Stick around to discover which family sits at the #1 spot, a dynasty whose investment in Miami spans over 4 decades and has reshaped not just a neighborhood, but an entire district. Their story is a testament to patience, vision, and the extraordinary power of generational wealth. This is the untold story of Chinese money in Miami. In October 2016, a transaction closed in Miami that would have seemed impossible just a decade earlier. A single buyer, operating through a web of shell companies, purchased 12 luxury condominium units in one building for $10.9 million. The payment arrived in full, wired from accounts overseas. The buyer paid entirely in cash. And here is the truly remarkable part. The person behind this extraordinary purchase had never set foot in Miami, not once, not even to glimpse the gleaming tower where nearly $11 million of their fortune would soon reside. The buyer remains anonymous to this day, known only through the fragments revealed by the brokers who facilitated the deal. We know this individual splits time between Shanghai and Hong Kong, moving between two of Asia's most dynamic financial capitals. We know they already reside in one of Hong Kong's most prestigious residential towers, a building developed by the same company behind the Miami property they purchased sight unseen. And we know their intention was purely investment. The 12 units, clustered mostly on the 28th floor of Rise at Brickell City Center, would be rented to tenants while the owner waited for Miami's market to continue its upward climb. This anonymous investor represents something far larger than a single transaction. They are the tip of an enormous iceberg, one of thousands of wealthy Chinese individuals who have quietly poured billions into Miami's luxury real estate market over the past 15 years. These buyers share common characteristics that set them apart from other international investors. They purchase predominantly in cash, with industry estimates suggesting that 70% of Chinese buyers in Florida arrive with full payment ready. They favor new construction, preferring gleaming towers with modern amenities over older properties requiring renovation. and they often buy without ever visiting, relying instead on trusted advisors, brand recognition, and the reputation of developers whose work they know from back home. The mathematics driving this investment wave are compelling. In Shanghai or Beijing, luxury apartments can cost 3 to 4 times what comparable properties fetch in Miami. A buyer who sells a single apartment in a prime Chinese city can often purchase multiple units in Brickell and still have capital remaining. Add in the appeal of American property rights, Florida's absence of state income tax, and the lifestyle promise of year-round sunshine, and Miami becomes irresistible to investors seeking to diversify their wealth beyond China's borders. The scale of this capital flow is staggering. Chinese buyers have consistently ranked among the top foreign purchasers of American real estate, spending billions annually on properties from coast to coast. Miami, with its international character and relative affordability compared to New York or San Francisco, has emerged as a particularly attractive destination. The Miami Association of Realtors recognized this opportunity early, forming a partnership with China Global United Real Estate Group to facilitate cross-border transactions and welcome Asian capital into the local market. Real estate professionals describe Miami as the Hong Kong of the West, a characterization that resonates deeply with Chinese investors who see familiar patterns in the city's vertical growth, waterfront premium, and international sophistication. They view Miami condominiums not merely as vacation homes, but as safe havens for capital, generators of rental income, and potential future residences for themselves or their children pursuing American educations. Yet this wave of investment has faced headwinds in recent years. Chinese capital controls have made it increasingly difficult to move large sums out of the country. New Florida legislation has restricted property purchases by Chinese nationals near military installations and critical infrastructure, regulations that affect significant portions of South Florida. Despite these obstacles, the appetite persists. Chinese buyers continue to rank among Miami's most significant international investors, and those who established positions in earlier years have watched their holdings appreciate dramatically as Miami's global profile has risen. The collective impact of this anonymous capital is written across Miami's skyline in glass and steel. But individual stories within this wave prove even more remarkable. Consider the journey of one family whose patriarch was born not into Shanghai wealth or Hong Kong privilege, but into a household of peasant farmers in rural China. Lu Guangqiu entered the world in 1945 in Shaoshan, near Hangzhou, to a family that worked the land for survival. By 15, he had abandoned formal education to become an ironsmith, learning to shape metal with his hands in workshops far removed from the gleaming towers his fortune would eventually help build. In 1969, with the equivalent of $500 pooled from 6 fellow farmers, he established a small factory producing agricultural equipment. The venture was modest, the ambitions anything but. From those humble origins, Lu constructed Wangxiang Group into China's largest automotive parts manufacturer, a conglomerate generating $25 billion in annual revenue with operations spanning 22 American states. Wangxiang became the first Chinese company to sell auto parts directly to American automobile manufacturers, a breakthrough that opened doors for countless Chinese enterprises that followed. Lu's appetite for American assets extended far beyond car components. In 2013, Wangxiang acquired A123 Systems, a bankrupt American battery manufacturer. The following year, they purchased Fisker Automotive Holdings, the failed luxury electric car startup, for $149 million at bankruptcy auction. Under Wangxiang's stewardship, Fisker was reborn as Karma Automotive, a producer of luxury electric vehicles that represents Chinese ambition meeting American innovation. Lu Guangqiu passed away in October 2017, but his vision endures through his son Lu Whiting, who now serves as Wangxiang's chief executive, and his son-in-law Pin Ni, who directs American operations. In 2022, Lu Guangqiu became the first Chinese entrepreneur inducted into the United States Automotive Hall of Fame in Detroit, a posthumous recognition of his extraordinary journey from rural poverty to industrial titan. The Lu family's relevance to our countdown crystallizes in one address: Wangxiang America. Real Estate Group is a co-developer of the residences at Six Fisher Island, an ultra-luxury condominium rising on America's wealthiest zip code. Partnering with Related Group and Israeli billionaire Teddy Sagi, Wangxiang helped acquire the final development parcel on Fisher Island for over $100 million. The project has already generated more than $500 million in pre-sales. A peasant farmer's descendants now build condominiums on Billionaire's Island. That transformation captures something essential about Chinese capital in Miami. It is patient, ambitious, and generational in its thinking. The families climbing our countdown understand that true wealth is measured not in quarters, but in decades. The networks that move Chinese capital across oceans are built on relationships forged generations ago. To understand how Hong Kong wealth found its way to Miami, we must travel back to the late 1950s, when three young men in Hong Kong recognized that their city stood on the cusp of transformation. They pooled their modest resources, combined their ambitions, and began investing together in property and various ventures. History would remember them as the Three Musketeers, though none could have imagined the empires their partnership would eventually spawn. One of those three men was Feng King He, a figure whose instincts for finance would reshape Hong Kong's securities industry. Another was Li Shaoqi, who would build Henderson Land Development into a property colossus worth tens of billions. The third was Kwok Tak Seng, whose Sun Hung Kai properties would become the largest real estate developer in Hong Kong by market value. Eventually, the three parted ways, each pursuing separate paths to extraordinary wealth. But the connections they forged, the investment philosophies they shared, and the families they raised would influence how Hong Kong money moved around the world for decades to come. Feng King He channeled his financial acumen into founding Sun Hung Kai Securities in 1969. The firm quickly grew into Hong Kong's largest brokerage house, a powerhouse that facilitated the trading ambitions of the city's rapidly multiplying millionaires. When Feng passed away in 1985, his son, Tony Feng Wing-chung, assumed leadership at just 34 years old. The younger Feng would guide the family's brokerage through 11 more years before selling their stake in 1996 and pivoting toward new horizons. Tony Feng's subsequent ventures reveal the restless ambition that characterizes Hong Kong's second generation of wealth. He established Yuming Investment Management with partners, seeking opportunities beyond the familiar territory of securities trading. He built Aquis into a significant force in Australian real estate and gaming, acquiring casino properties and developing luxury residential towers on Queensland's Gold Coast. His passion for competition, evident since the days when he raced go-karts against Formula One legend Ayrton Senna, found new expression in Australian horse racing, where his Aquis farm emerged as one of the nation's premier breeding and training operations. The Feng family represents a template repeated across dozens of Hong Kong dynasties. Wealth created in one generation through securities, manufacturing, or trading is diversified by the next generation into global real estate, hospitality, and lifestyle investments. The pathways these families establish become highways for capital-seeking stable returns and geographic diversification. Miami, with its favorable tax treatment, international accessibility, and luxury lifestyle, sits squarely within their investment sights. The connections between Hong Kong's elite business networks and Miami's development community have multiplied over decades, creating channels through which billions flow with increasing ease. Yet individual family investments tell only part of the story. Sometimes the most powerful forces shaping a city's trajectory are not families at all, but brands. Brands that carry meaning, that signal quality, that whisper to investors across oceans that a location has arrived. In the year 2000, one such brand planted its flag on a small man-made island in Biscayne Bay, and Miami's relationship with Asian capital would never be the same. The Mandarin Oriental Miami opened its doors on Brickell Key at the turn of the millennium. The 326-room five-star hotel represented something unprecedented for Miami, a property that met the exacting standards of Hong Kong's most discerning travelers and investors. The hotel's waterfront location offered sweeping views of the bay and downtown skyline. Its service philosophy, refined through decades of excellence across Asia, brought a level of sophistication that positioned Brickell Key as a legitimate destination for serious international wealth. Behind the Mandarin Oriental brand stands Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, a company majority owned by Jardine Matheson Holdings. The Jardine name carries extraordinary weight in Asian business circles. The firm traces its origins to the 1830s, when it operated as one of the original trading houses along the China coast. Today, Jardine Matheson is a Hong Kong-headquartered conglomerate with interests spanning property, retail, engineering, and transportation across Asia. The Keswick family, which has guided Jardine Matheson for generations, maintains controlling influence over this sprawling empire. The significance of Mandarin Oriental's presence in Miami extends far beyond its room count or revenue figures. For Chinese and Hong Kong investors, brand recognition carries immense weight when evaluating overseas opportunities. Many rely on familiar names and word of mouth within their networks when making investment decisions thousands of miles from home. The presence of a prestigious Hong Kong hotel brand effectively validated Miami as a destination worthy of serious capital. Mandarin Oriental did not merely open a hotel on Brickell Key. It blessed the location for subsequent waves of Asian investment. This validation proved self-reinforcing. As more Hong Kong-connected capital flowed into Brickell Key and the surrounding areas, property values rose. Rising values attracted additional investment. The neighborhood transformed from a quiet residential island into one of America's most desirable urban addresses, its prestige inextricably linked to the five-star hotel that had signaled its potential 2 decades earlier. The Mandarin Oriental Miami story continues to evolve. The original hotel is currently being demolished to make way for The Residences at Mandarin Oriental Miami, an ambitious billion-dollar development that will include 228 luxury residences alongside a completely reimagined hotel. When complete, this property will serve as Mandarin Oriental's new North American flagship, a statement of continued confidence in Miami's trajectory and the enduring appeal of Brickell Key. We have now reached the midpoint of our countdown. We have witnessed anonymous Shanghai investors purchasing condos sight unseen, traced the collective billions that Chinese buyers have poured into Miami's luxury market, met the descendants of peasant farmers now developing on Fisher Island, explored the Hong Kong dynasties whose networks channel capital across oceans, and understood how a single hotel brand validated an entire neighborhood for Asian investment. What lies ahead demands a shift in scale entirely. The families and forces occupying our top 5 have not merely invested in Miami, they have fundamentally reshaped it. Their commitments are measured not in millions, but in billions. Their timelines not in years, but in decades. The wealth and vision we are about to encounter operate on a level that has literally transformed the Miami skyline. Breaking into our top 5 requires understanding a truth that shapes everything we have discussed thus far. The individual investors and hotel brands and development partnerships we have examined did not emerge from nothing. They are products of a system, expressions of an investment philosophy, tributaries flowing from a handful of mighty rivers. To comprehend how Chinese capital transformed Miami, we must first grasp the dynasties that taught an entire generation of Asian investors how to think about global real estate. Hong Kong's modern business landscape has been dominated by 4 legendary families whose combined influence defies easy comprehension. Li Ka-shing built C.K. Hutchison into a conglomerate spanning ports, telecommunications, retail, and infrastructure across 50 countries, amassing a personal fortune estimated at $39 billion. Li Shaoqi founded Henderson Land Development and became known as Hong Kong's Warren Buffett, a reference to his extraordinary ability to identify undervalued assets and hold them patiently for decades. The Kwok family transformed Sun Hung Kai Properties into the largest real estate developer in Hong Kong by market capitalization. The Chung family built New World Development into an empire encompassing property, infrastructure, hotels, and department stores, with current patriarch Henry Cheng commanding a fortune exceeding $30 billion. These 4 families did not merely build Hong Kong's skyline, they created the template that guides how Chinese wealth invests around the world. The strategies they pioneered have become gospel for thousands of smaller investors seeking to replicate their success. Mixed-use developments that seamlessly combine retail, residential, and hospitality components. This is the Hong Kong model, refined over decades and exported globally. Acquiring land early in a neighborhood's development cycle and waiting patiently for surrounding infrastructure to drive appreciation? Standard practice among Hong Kong's property elite. Developing man-made islands and reclaimed waterfronts into premium real estate? Hong Kong investors perfected this approach long before Miami developers began eyeing Biscayne Bay. When these families expanded internationally, moving into London, Vancouver, Sydney, and American cities, they established pathways that others eagerly followed. Their success demonstrated that Hong Kong capital could not only survive, but thrive in Western real estate markets. The investment advisors, private bankers, and real estate professionals who facilitate Chinese investment in Miami today often maintain direct connections to networks originally built by these founding dynasties. Li Shaoqi, who passed away in March 2025 at the age of 97, proved particularly influential in shaping attitudes toward international diversification. Throughout his career, he advocated for spreading wealth across geographic boundaries, counsel that resonated deeply with Hong Kong families watching their city's relationship with mainland China evolve in uncertain directions. The billions that flowed from Hong Kong to Miami over the past 2 decades reflect, in part, the philosophy Li championed throughout his remarkable life. Combined, these 4 families control assets worth well over $100 billion. Their influence extends far beyond direct holdings into the realm of ideas, strategies, and patterns that have shaped an entire investment culture. Every anonymous buyer purchasing a Miami condominium, every development partnership bringing Hong Kong capital to Florida shores, operates within frameworks these dynasties established. The masters taught well, and among their most accomplished students stands a company that took the Hong Kong development playbook and applied it to Miami with results that have reshaped an entire district. Swire Properties arrived in Miami before most Americans had heard of Hong Kong as anything other than a distant British colony. In 1978, the company acquired a joint venture interest in Clawton Island, a barren 44-acre man-made island sitting in Biscayne Bay, with little to recommend it beyond location and potential. The island would be renamed Brickell Key, and over the following decades, Swire would orchestrate one of the most remarkable urban transformations in American history. The development timeline demonstrates patience that few Western investors could muster. Between 1995 and 2001, Swire delivered 1, 2, and 3 to Cuesta Point, residential towers that established Brickell Key as a legitimate address. In 2000, they opened the Mandarin Oriental Miami, a 326-room five-star hotel in which Swire held a 75% interest. In 2003 came Courts Brickell Key and Jade Residences. In 2008, Asia rose 32 stories above the island, adding 123 more residential units to the Swire portfolio, each project built methodically upon the last. Where others might have rushed to maximize short-term returns, Swire thought in decades. They understood that true value creation in real estate requires not just capital, but vision, not just buildings, but neighborhoods, not just units sold, but communities cultivated. Then came Brickell City Center, the project that would cement Swire's legacy as Miami's most transformative developer. Opening in 2016, this $1.05 billion mixed-use development sprawled across 4.9 million square feet spanning multiple city blocks. The 500,000 square foot shopping center, anchored by Miami's first new Saks Fifth Avenue in years, brought luxury retail to a neighborhood previously defined by office towers and residential buildings. 2 condominium towers, Reach and Raise, added hundreds of residences to the Brickell skyline. The East Miami Hotel introduced the Swire hospitality brand to American shores. 2 office towers provided premium commercial space. And, threading through it all, the Climate Ribbon, a $30 million elevated trellis system designed to harness bay breezes while deflecting tropical sun, showcased the innovative thinking that distinguished Swire developments. The numbers are staggering. Over 45 years, Swire Properties has invested well over $3 billion in Miami real estate. They have developed thousands of condominium units, created thousands of jobs, and fundamentally altered how the world perceives Miami's Brickell district. Their American headquarters has operated from Miami since 1979, a commitment spanning nearly half a century. Recent years have seen Swire recalibrating its Miami portfolio. In 2025, the company sold its 75% stake in the Brickell City Center Mall to partner Simon Property Group for up to $548 million. They divested a development site to the Mello Group for $211 million after shelving plans for a 1,000-foot office tower. But Swire is not retreating from Miami. The proceeds are funding their most ambitious project yet, a billion-dollar development that will serve as their crowning achievement on Brickell Key. Understanding that project requires understanding the family behind it, a dynasty whose story spans 6 generations and 2 centuries. Entering the top 3 demands, we pull back the curtain on the dynasty behind everything we have just described. Swire Properties did not emerge from corporate boardrooms or venture capital funds. It grew from a family, a lineage stretching back 6 generations to a time when steamships were revolutionizing global trade and the British Empire was approaching its zenith. The Swire saga begins in Liverpool, England in 1816. John Swire established a modest trading house dealing in American cotton and textiles, building relationships across the Atlantic that would sustain his enterprise for 3 decades. When he died in 1847, the business passed to his sons John Samuel and William Hudson. It was John Samuel who would transform a regional trading firm into an Asian empire. Following disruptions to the cotton trade caused by the American Civil War, John Samuel Swire traveled to Shanghai in November 1866 to investigate opportunities in China. Within a single week, he had established a partnership that would evolve into Butterfield and Swire, one of the most powerful trading houses the Far East would ever know. The firm opened in Hong Kong in 1870. In 1872, they founded the China Navigation Company, which grew into the largest shipping operator on the Yangtze River. In 1882, the Taikoo Sugar Refinery began operations in Hong Kong. In 1900, the Taikoo Dockyard commenced building and repairing vessels. Generation after generation, the Swires expanded their reach. Today, the Swire Group encompasses Swire Pacific and Swire Properties, both listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. They hold a major stake in Cathay Pacific Airways, Hong Kong's flag carrier airline. Swire Coca-Cola operates bottling facilities across vast stretches of Asia. The China Navigation Company still moves cargo across oceans. Collectively, these enterprises employ over 93,000 people worldwide. The family has maintained remarkable continuity across 2 centuries. Barnaby Swire currently chairs John Swire and Sons Limited from London. Merlin Bingham Swire serves as chief executive, the Taipan overseeing Hong Kong operations. Merlin was born in 1973, a billionaire from his first breath. He grew up at Sparsholt Manor near Winchester, studied classics at Oxford University, and married Lady Laura Carlin Chisholm, daughter of the Baroness Chisholm of Owlpen. His father, the late Sir Adrian Swire, navigated the family through Hong Kong's 1997 handover to China, building personal relationships with Chinese leaders that secured Swire interests during a period of profound uncertainty. The Swire family fortune is estimated at approximately $25 billion, placing them among Britain's wealthiest dynasties. But their significance transcends net worth calculations. They represent something increasingly rare in modern business, a family that thinks not in quarters or fiscal years, but in generations, that plants seeds knowing their grandchildren will harvest the fruit. Our runner-up position belongs to a family whose trajectory mirrors the Swires in one crucial respect. They too understand that enduring wealth requires patience measured in lifetimes. The Liu family's commitment to American real estate has accelerated dramatically since Wangxiang America, Real Estate Group's founding in 2010. Over the years that followed, the firm invested more than $1 billion of equity into nearly 100 commercial real estate projects scattered across the United States. Their portfolio spans office towers and shopping centers, warehouses and medical buildings, student housing and luxury residential developments. According to executives, real estate has accounted for more than half of Wangxiang's total American investments in recent years, with returns described as extraordinarily strong. Pin Ni, president of Wangxiang's American operations and son-in-law to the late founder Lu Guangqiu, has spoken publicly about the strategic logic driving these investments. The company seeks value creation potential, opportunities where patient capital and operational improvements can unlock appreciation that impatient investors would miss. This philosophy, so reminiscent of Hong Kong's greatest property dynasties, has guided Wangxiang from automotive components into the upper echelons of American real estate development. The residences at 6 Fisher Island represents the culmination of this journey. Fisher Island is accessible only by ferry or helicopter, a private enclave where membership in the Islands Club costs $250,000, with annual dues of $20,000 more. The project, developed alongside related group Teddy Sagi and BH Group, offers just 50 residences starting at $30 million, with penthouses commanding far higher prices. 2 penthouses alone sold for a combined $150 million. Total pre-sales have exceeded $500 million. Lu Guangqiu once articulated a philosophy that explains everything about his family's approach. "If I do not succeed, my son will continue," he said. "If he does not make it, my grandson will." This multi-generational thinking, this willingness to plant trees whose shade you will never enjoy, separates enduring dynasties from fleeting fortunes. And now we arrive at the summit. The number one position on our countdown belongs to the family that has demonstrated this generational commitment more completely than any other Chinese-connected investor in Miami history. The Swire dynasty claims this distinction not through a single spectacular transaction, but through nearly 5 decades of patient visionary investment that has fundamentally reshaped an American city. Consider the full magnitude of what the Swires have accomplished in Miami. They acquired Brickell Key when it was a barren man-made island offering nothing but potential. They developed it methodically across 45 years, adding residential towers, a world-class hotel, and premium amenities that transformed 44 acres of reclaimed land into one of America's most prestigious addresses. They invested over $1 billion in Brickell City Center, creating a mixed-use destination that redefined what Miami's financial district could become. Their total Miami investment exceeds $3 billion, a figure that continues growing. The story is not finished. The residences at Mandarin Oriental Miami, currently rising on Brickell Key, will stand 800 feet tall and include a penthouse reportedly priced at $100 million. When complete, this tower will serve as Mandarin Oriental's new North American flagship, the culmination of everything the Swires have built since they first saw potential in a patch of water and sand nearly half a century ago. The Swire family did not merely invest in Miami, they helped build it. They brought Hong Kong's sophisticated approach to mixed-use development to American shores and proved it could succeed spectacularly. They demonstrated that patience and vision, applied consistently across generations, can transform not just portfolios, but entire neighborhoods. For all these reasons, the Swire dynasty stands as the wealthiest and most impactful Chinese-connected family in Miami history. Their legacy is written across the Brickell skyline in glass and steel and light. The story of Chinese investment in Miami is ultimately a story about globalization, vision, and the remarkable mobility of modern wealth. We've traveled from anonymous Shanghai investors purchasing condos sight unseen, through waves of capital that have reshaped the luxury market, to industrial dynasties pivoting from car parts to Fisher Island penthouses, and finally, to a sixth-generation British Hong Kong family that has spent nearly 5 decades transforming Brickell into one of America's most dynamic urban neighborhoods. What connects these diverse investors is a shared recognition. Miami offers something unique. It's a gateway city to Latin America, to the Caribbean, to the broader American market. It has favorable taxes, year-round sunshine, and a cosmopolitan culture that welcomes international investment. And compared to property prices in Shanghai, Hong Kong, or Beijing, Miami represents extraordinary value. But beyond the financial calculations, there's something more profound at work. These investors aren't just buying real estate, they're buying into the American dream. They're creating legacies for their children and grandchildren. They're diversifying away from the political and economic uncertainties of their home markets. They're becoming, in their own ways, American. The impact on Miami has been transformative. Neighborhoods that were once sleepy and underdeveloped now gleam with glass towers. World-class hotels and shopping destinations have emerged where there was once nothing but water and mangroves. The city's skyline, that magical view of downtown from the MacArthur Causeway, owes much of its drama to Chinese connected capital. Looking ahead, the relationship between Chinese wealth and Miami will continue to evolve. New restrictions on foreign land ownership, changing geopolitical dynamics, and shifts in both Chinese and American economies will shape future investment patterns. But the foundation has been laid. The relationships have been built. The proof of concept that Miami can absorb and benefit from Chinese capital is written in glass and steel across the Brickell skyline. The Swire family alone has invested over $3 billion across nearly 5 decades. The Liu family's Wangxiang is helping build on Fisher Island. Anonymous investors continue to purchase luxury units. The collective impact is measured in the tens of billions. This is the story of Chinese money in Miami, a story of patient capital, bold vision, and the transformation of a city. And as Miami continues to rise as a global metropolis, the Chinese investors who believed in it earliest will continue to reap the rewards of their foresight. The Magic City owes more to the East than most people realize,